Hi, welcome to the Community Table, a new podcast hosted by me, Heather Elder of Heather Elder Represents,
and me, Kelly Montez of Apostrophe.
If you've been in the industry for a while, you might remember the original Community Table series I co-hosted with Kate Chase from 2012 to 2017. It was a space for producers, creatives, and industry leaders to gather and talk openly about the work, the challenges, and the changes we were all navigating at the time.
And in 2026, there's no shortage of things to talk about, from AI and evolving client relationships to the way content is being created.
That's why we decided to bring the Community Table back, but this time as a podcast. Kelly and I will co-host, reflecting on the expanding conversations we're having every day with our artists, producers, and creatives shaping what comes next. Whether you're a seasoned producer, a curious creative, or just someone trying to figure out how to thrive in this changing landscape, there's always room at the table.
Hi all, welcome back to the Community Table. Today, Heather and I are joined by Rob Haggart and Mary Dail for a conversation about AI, artist rights, and the future of creative work. AI is already a part of our industry. It's showing up in creative tools, production workflows, contracts, and conversations around authorship, usage, and consent. Our hope today is to have a thoughtful and practical conversation about how we can embrace AI as a tool while also protecting the rights and value of artists.
Rob Haggart is the former director of photography for Men's Journal and Outside Magazine and the founder of A Photo Editor, a leading platform for commercial photography education, business guidance, and advocacy. He also co-created the State of the Photography Industry Survey with Heather Morton. Mary Dail is the president of the Artist Management Association, founder and CEO of Big Leo Productions, and co-founder of Focus on Women. Through her work with the AMA, she has helped lead efforts around AI contract language, shared industry vocabulary, and resources that support artists' rights. Together, Rob and Mary bring a clear and thoughtful perspective on what photographers, reps, agencies, brands, and creative partners are navigating right now. Today, we'll talk about responsible AI use, usage rights, protected workflows, and how the industry can move forward with more clarity, care, and trust. Let's dive in. Welcome. So happy to have you both here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So you both sit close to photographers and creative professionals in different ways. And I'm going to pass it to you first, Mary. What are you hearing from the community right now when it comes to AI? Is there fear? Is there curiosity, fatigue, a mix of all of that? You have a unique position as both an agency owner and the president of the AMA. So we just love to know what are the tea leaves saying?
Well, I appreciate that. I definitely think my conversation within the AMA is different from my agency because representing artists, I do feel a lot of fear right now. And I think that's because it's been a slower year. And I think AI has definitely been the easiest monster in the room. Well, maybe the second in the room right now. And I think that the artists I work with who understand how to use the tools are trying to lean into what it can do, but they still fear being unnecessary.
Yeah. And how about on the conversation from the side of the AMA in terms of speaking with other agency owners?
Well, for me, the beauty of an organization like the Artist Management Association is that because we're a collective of so many of our industry's agents, peers, and we're on the front lines of client inquiries and contract terms, that we get to see a cross section of the asks that are coming from different types of clients, agencies, and what the industry is collectively facing. We could not amass the types of resources we've been amassing without this input, like constantly, as you said before, evolving from the membership, who honestly help us grow those resources, even just by simply posing questions about terms they're receiving that they don't understand.
Rob, how about you? What are you hearing from photographers and other folks in the industry right now in regards to AI?
There's just a lot of fear out there and uncertainty as to what's going to happen to the photography business. I mean, I've been in the photography business, a long time, but 2000 when I got into the magazine business, but it's just been sort of a constant slow decline to the business. And there's just all kind of pressures every year. It's just piling on. And this AI thing is really causing a lot of fear and uncertainty as to what the future's going to look like. It's certainly going to be smaller. The industry, it keeps getting smaller, I feel like. Um, and freelancers are just sort of there's definitely a lot of resistance to people not wanting to be a part of this AI revolution at all. I feel that in a lot of comments that I see, people are like, "Well, if that's the way it's going to go, then I'm out." I got into this to be an artist and to make pictures, and I don't want to deal with AI. There's certainly a lot of people embracing it. I see it more on the commercial side. A lot of commercial photographers playing with the tools, trying to see, you know, how to use it. And of course, you're working for the client, right? If they want to use AI, they want to incorporate it, they want to find photographers who know how to use it, then that's what they're going to seek out. So you got to add that to your toolbox. So you definitely see that side of it as well. People who are like, okay, look, this is just another tool. We need to figure out how to embrace it. It's like going to autofocus. I worked with sports photographers, and when autofocus came out, that was like a huge revolution in photography. Oh my gosh, not having to pull focus on subjects, that just changed the whole game. And now we're at this point. It's a crazy point where like you don't need a camera to make a picture.
Coincidentally, because I represent stylists as well, and I see the fallout
Oh
because if
yeah.
there are no shoots, there's no styling. But we did recently have a shoot, and again, no client names, but they had my photographer come shoot an empty table with client talent reaching in, and they AI'd all of the food in the shot.
Oh my gosh.
The food?
The food. It wasn't a food shoot. It was a different kind of shoot, but I'll give too much away if I say more. But there was no food stylist, which I thought was wow.
Going back to what Rob said about the transitions you've experienced in the industry, you hear a lot of like CGI, and then you hear, oh, when we got rid of portfolios to websites and the economy, like, so everybody has a story that tries to make themselves feel better about like, we've been through this before, we're going to get through it again. I really feel like we're not being invited into the room. So in all of those other instances, the artist, the photographer was invited into the room to do the CGI, to do the motion, to do whatever. There was a lot of times they had the ability to learn the tool. And while they are learning the AI tool, absolutely, there are plenty of them that are learning it and can do it and are willing to do it. A lot of the agencies or the brands are doing it themselves and not inviting all of us in, whereas before we were the logical ones to be there. And I do see a bit of a decline in that area.
I worked with a lot of creative directors who just wish they were photographers. That sort of syndrome where they're like, I just wish I could take the picture. I just don't want to tell you guys everything that needs to happen, And it's like, now they can take the picture, right? They have all the creative knowledge, and they can just plug it into this machine and make a picture out of it. I mean, right now it still seems like slop to me, which doesn't matter. I mean, there's plenty of of advertising and money goes into making really sloppy photography and selling it to the public. So that sector feels like that's going to be the first to go, and certainly like the all the stock photography and things like that can just be replicated with this AI stuff.
Well, I think that's a good segue because I feel like there's so many things to protect along, now that AI is here, ownership, authorship, income, future income, crew, production. Like there's just so much. And I think we are at a point where a lot of us understand that. Do you see that there's anything encouraging right now?
Mary, that's for you.
The encouraging part is having, like I said, this collective of people. It's not just us having the conversation. Lots of organizations are having conversations around the implications of this. And Heather, when you talked about not being in the room, I think that that's something I really appreciate that you all have spearheaded, is getting in the room to talk about the contract side of this, like the rights and usage side of this, because the artists, if they're not being invited into the room to implement this or utilize this or learn this, at least we're trying to connect with people to talk about the rights portion of this and authorship, which I think is what I would like my artists to be more afraid of that. But I really think they're more afraid of the loss of future opportunity than even the loss of rights. which is a little infuriating because as an agent all these years, I've really worked hard to get my artists to register their copyright, which doesn't always happen. But here we are, and exactly the scenario that was like, I need all of you to be doing this.
Well, and I think the fear drives bad decisions, right? In a rush and an excitement to sign a PO, I've seen artists skip over the whole terms and condition process and just want to sign the PO and not want to even bring up a question or bring up any issue. Then it leaves them exposed. And it's just not good. It's not good for them. It's not good for our industry. It's so important to have these conversations and ask the question. And I think people are afraid.
I agree. And that's what I mean. I think that my artists have compromised a license for a payday, which I get. They have to make money. I cannot begrudge an artist wanting to make money. But this is different. This is way different.
I'm curious how we can continue to have that conversation about usage in the face of AI. Rob, when you're engaging with photographers through your platforms, are they talking about usage rights? Are they seeing AI machine learning as a usage right? What does that conversation look like for the unrepresented photographer?
We recently posted about one of the photographers had a question about how he should price AI use because the client wants to take the photos and then put them into the machine and spit out color variations and those kind of things. And so, what does that look like? And it's all over the board, but it feels like a buyout to me. You're going to use these photos for whatever you want to use them for, and it needs to have a price, a usage associated with that. There's a big fight that's about to happen. It's coming up. There's a lot of lawsuits that are unsettled. They have to, settle these lawsuits and figure out what the usage is or what they're doing with all this stolen work. Photographers, now is your opportunity to register your copyright before all the lawsuits happen. Like, you need to do it now. If you haven't done it, you're not doing it in the past. Get it all registered so that you can be a part of these class action lawsuits that are going to happen. I mean, we can be all, I think, assured that they've scraped everything.
Yes.
They've scraped the entire internet, and they continue to scrape it. I mean, I'm in the website business, and we saw a 20% increase in our cost just from scrapers.
How does that cost you more? Just could you explain that?
Yeah, so we pay for a site to just to hold the images and the framework of the site and everything, and then we pay to serve it. So every time somebody comes and looks at the site, that's called bandwidth, and so we pay that fee. And we also use what's called a CDN, so the site is projected out across the world and it's cached so that it loads faster. And so that's another fee on top of that. And so when these scrapers come through, they're hitting the site and hitting all the images on a site, and then they're downloading them.
When you block these scrapers, does that do anything to affect the way in which your site shows up on an algorithm? Because that also has been a fear of mine. Like, I'm trying to optimize my website not only for search, like standard search, but also now for AI search, so that that apostrophe shows up. If I have something that blocks these scrapers, does that then affect the reach of my site?
That's a great question. So now there's two basically types of AI bots. There's a scraper, which then bakes it into the AI. So like, if they're like, who's the best commercial product photographer in LA? If that could be baked in, but from what I understand, that you would have to be on a list, maybe like on Reddit or something like that, or another list where somebody's like, these are the best commercial photographers, right? For the AI to have that already baked into what it is. Then they also they do like a search. So like, you can ask it and it'll go search the web. We only block the scrapes. We don't block the searches. So like, now an AI engine, you can allow them to search your site when they're trying to find a question like Google would do, but you can block them from scraping it.
I'd love to talk a little bit about the contracts that, the contract conversation and like how when AI kind of first came up, what you thought, what was the conversation around contracts and what was the community talking about and asking and what did the AMA produce and how helpful do you think it was?
I think it's been really useful because we have a lot of our membership and our respective artists who don't know what we don't know. So having the membership come forward with some terms and things that they're seeing that we could all evaluate and look at the implications of that have been invaluable. And I love that we've come up with shared terms just so that we're all speaking the same language, saying the same things to clients. I'm finding out on the client side too that some of them don't know what they don't know either.
Rob, do you have photographers that are still asking to be educated and still you still feel like there's a lot of learning around that? Or do you feel like we've kind of crossed over a little bit and there's a baseline of knowledge around usage and contracts?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think with me sort of sharing, you guys shared your contract language as far as like preventing AI usage. What should that look like in what does that look like in a contract? And I shared that widely, and it got passed around for sure. People put that immediately into their contracts. Just figuring out the terms, the what to put in the contracts, what kind of things to say. I think it's important that everybody's on the same page.
Rob, do you find that photographers feel emboldened to make these requests? I think that that's one of my fears is that people assume, well, I can't make changes. The contract is what the contract is. Have you been hearing about wins using this language that the AMA created?
As always, it just depends on the level of photographer. I know a lot of photographers, a lot of people are up and coming. They don't have much leverage. And so that's always the situation where they get told that they have to sign the work for hire and give up everything, kind of thing. And it's just an unfortunate situation until you have some leverage or you're dealing with a client that's not just looking for generic AI slop. The thing about AI that I think we haven't talked about, sort of the elephant in the room, is it's all theft. It's the largest intellectual property theft in the history of the world, and they've stolen everything. It's all copyrighted material. They've copied all the books that have been written. They've stolen all the photography. It's 100%. Every piece of it is theft. There's no ethical way to use AI. And so is it going to come to a head? I don't know. Is like the New York Times going to just take a cut of the money, or are they going to help, carve out how copyrighted material is used? We just don't know, but it's crazy what's gone on and what it is, what it represents.
Fully agree.
See, I told you I could be a downer.
No, I think that gets lost in this conversation, Rob. I mean, it gets lost, and it's nice
Yeah.
to have that reminder. I remember 2 years ago, it really broke my brain that I was like, how is this okay? And I was really
No, it's
angered
not.
by it. It's not.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first to admit that, like, I forget that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like Getty has a huge lawsuit, but like, is Getty going to be an advocate? I doubt it. They've constantly gone to less rights and less rights, and now, photographers are getting checks for 12 cents.
One of the things that I think about when we touched upon here is like how this affects our crews, how this affects the stylists. What about our clients? What do they need to understand about how protecting artists' rights can help them?
Well, two things came to mind because, Robin, you were talking about the theft. I kept thinking iteration versus origination, and obviously you can't iterate with that original. We originate. We're human beings, right? And I certainly think about our clients, especially the creative directors and people who are iterating even these decks, right? I mean, for all intents and purposes, that is a decent use of AI. But I can see a pathway to that being like, okay, great. Now we know how to iterate that. We don't need you anymore because we can just iterate this only with AI. And now you don't have a job. So to your point, people are losing their jobs. And then my thought there is that we're losing all the experts and all of the people with whom we can have that conversation internally. And that sucks.
I feel very good that we have allies in the agency. There are art producers and there are,
Yeah.
and even at the brands that we know well, that we have relationships with, that all the years we've been in the industry, we can pick up the phone and call them. We can have a conversation. We can talk about it. And I do feel like there are people who are advocating for us, by extension themselves,
Yes.
right? Because they're looking to keep their jobs. But your point, Mary, is they are going away.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but a lot of people with the institutional knowledge at the top are going away, and they're being replaced with either broadcast producers who don't understand what we're doing, or younger producers who haven't had the experiences yet,
Yeah.
and account people who are not willing to have a hard conversation with their clients, so they're putting it back on their team.
Well, they don't want to lose their job either.
Yeah.
It's an interesting analogy, too, if you think about a young photographer looking at a contract and not knowing what they're looking at. What you said earlier, Heather, about kind of skimming over it, being like, okay, whatever, I just want the job or the paycheck. Similarly, I feel like the younger people in agencies or on the client side are being handed something from their business affairs. They don't know what it is. They don't know what to ask. So when we push back, I don't think they understand why. They're like, this is what I'm told. This is how we work. And so that's what I mean by I'm having to educate a lot, because that person doesn't know what to ask either. And they don't know why I'm asking the questions I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, and I had an experience early on where an art producer, like a head of a big important job with a lot of experience, said, Heather, you're the only one pushing back. And this was like in January or something. And I'm like, how is that even possible? Like, I can't be the only one pushing back. And then, someone else was like, yes, but she's just protecting her artists. And now I see a lot of the language that we were advocating for. I'm by no means taking credit. Like, we didn't invent anything, but like, I'm seeing people catch up to where we were as artist representatives at that time, and being the first ones to be okay with speaking up. I'm seeing some of that stuff being spoken back to us or reflected in contracts, and I'm appreciative of that.
Rob, when I come across your Instagram posts and the conversation that is happening and the shared information to make people feel less alone. I run a mentorship program, and I tell my mentees every year, the best part of this mentorship program is that there are 8 people that you are connected closely to, and you have to build community in order to learn from one another. And the same with the AMA. Before the AMA, I felt very isolated and not having that. And there's such a power of education for that younger photographer to know that somebody out there has tried, is taking that step forward. I see it in the comments on your posts on Instagram. And I was so thankful for Heather for initiating the conversation with me at the beginning of the year, and with Mary as the AMA president, making space for an AI committee to develop those tools. This education can be really, really powerful.
I think it's critical. And now we all have the tools that we can do this. I'm very thankful for the AMA and what you guys are doing. That's been so cool to see that happen, having been in the industry for a long time, and just seeing you guys get together and support each other. The clients do win when they can isolate us and make us feel like we're the only one pushing back, like you say. And we should all be somewhat banded together. And there's a group. If you search online, it's called the Photographers Union. And you have to be a working photographer to join. We vet all the photographers. It's only photographers in there, and they can talk about whatever they want. And usually the conversation is about bidding and pricing, and it's to help mentor young photographers. This whole AI thing, it's a necessary evil, but if there are places where we can fight back, we should do it. It's a battle. It's going to be a battle until something gets figured out as far as all this copyright theft. If there are opportunities for us to fight back against it, to push back on language, to keep photography out of AI and out of the hands of people who just want to, find cheaper ways to do things and not pay creative people, then we should do it.
Mary, for artists in general, what language already exists when negotiating usage that people can draw from at this time?
Related to AI or just in general?
In general, is there a parallel to other usage requests that they might have that they can draw to help them in their negotiations?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, in the past when someone's said, well, we're going to shoot this on white, we're going to swap the colors out in the background, thinking that that's all AI is going to do is very naive. So I want to make sure people understand what they're turning over if they give a client that use. Another thing we've talked about a lot at the AMA is this increase in the ask for work for hire, which I've said, everyone's like, well, AI is kind of like a buyout or it's kind of like work for hire, but it's not. It's worse because when you work for hire, it is a static amount of deliverables and that's it. They own it, sure, and you don't have the copyright, sure, and they can use it forever, sure. But they cannot create unlimited amounts of new work. If you give that copyright away, they can just iterate away.
Well, and if we as an industry start to just be okay with it, even if you're getting more money for it, you're forgetting that most important part. So it's like the more we can kind of talk about that and educate people and have people push back on it. I also think if you're creating new work from this AI, from my work that you got from work for hire, right now, the law doesn't really say whether or not that work is copyrightable or not.
Right.
The Supreme Court said it was back down to the Ninth Circuit's decision, which said if there was human authorship, it's copyrightable. But I don't think they gave any percentage or any, like it's still incredibly gray. So you've created more images that now another brand can steal or anyone else can use and say they're their images. And how are you going to fight that?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy for brands to embrace this. I mean, obviously for cost, but none of it's copyrightable, any AI thing. And it can all be reverse engineered. I mean, 100%, It's like, yeah, a machine made it. Anybody can make it. It's not, there's no creative sauce in there. And I can see a future where an AI is trained on a photographer or a body of work, and then you're producing derivative works, but you license them. That's its own license. Fine, that seems totally cool. We want to reward artists who have vision and talent and skills, and if you want to put it into the box and spit out more works, just license it. Everything should be licensed.
Absolutely. And we have that language exists already. There's already usage terms around that. That's not new. People have been creating derivative works for years. They're just making the derivative works faster and cheaper now.
And without accountability.
And that's what we want to stop. That's what we want to have people pause and consider. Because to your point, Rob, if you create something beautiful and you put it into the machine, you're not going to get slop out. You're going to get something that's nice. And let's honor the artist that helped to make that possible.
I would love personally, and I don't want to speak for the AMA, but I would personally love to figure out some sort of event, webinar, roundtable, something that is like co-hosted between us and Rob for both communities of people. I think there's so much to learn from conversations like this.
Well, this is what makes me optimistic, right? Because there is such a beautiful community of people who care about one another and care about art. And I feel so lucky to know all of you here today and appreciate your generosity for coming on and sharing this information with all of us.
I feel like I have learned so much today. This has been so helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. Wonderful to talk to you guys.
Thanks so much for your time, everyone. Thanks for joining us at the community table. Bringing this conversation to life with Kelly has been such a rewarding way to build on the original series. The more the industry evolves, the more we believe in the power of open, honest dialogue to help us all navigate what's next. We hope today's discussion left you with fresh ideas, new perspectives, or simply a sense that you're part of a larger creative community that's figuring it out together. Be sure to subscribe, share the episode, and pull up a chair next time. There's always a seat waiting for you at the table.